So this is all about it. And let's begin with the first person. V. Heymonth Kumar. He's doing first MA English in Bharathiar University, Perundurai. And the topic is Postmodern Texts and Retelling in Atwood's Hag-Seed. Yes. Let's proceed.
Yeah, am I visible, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, good morning to everyone. I'm Heymonth Kumar. I'm pursuing first year MA English Literature at Bharathiar University Postgraduate Extension and Research Center, Perundurai, Erode. Now I'm going to show my PPT presentation. Is my PPT visible, ma'am?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes, it is
ma'am.
visible.
Okay, ma'am. The topic of my presentation is postmodern texts and retelling in Atwood's Hag-Seed. The contents in my presentation are postmodernism, postmodern texts, the important aspects of postmodern texts in Margaret Atwood's Hag-Seed, retelling of William Shakespeare's The Tempest in Margaret Atwood's Hag-Seed, and the research findings of me. Postmodernism. The term postmodernism, the meaning of the term postmodernism is the period after modernism. So in this period, the writers and people follow trends differs from modernism. As you know very well, postmodernism is based on the psychological aspects of human mind, and it tells that our mind has more stress than modernism, because from the advent of modernism, we started to do industrial works and etc. So we turned away from nature, so we mingle with the industries and technology that reflects our life, and that reflects the psychological aspects of our life in a bad manner. So that is the most important theme of postmodernism. Postmodernism is filled with pains, suicides, and uh, negative thoughts, vengeance, etc. Postmodernism influences literature, philosophy, anthropology, medicine, architecture, and so on. The postmodern texts are the texts which are in several forms: movie scripts, novels, plays, short stories, poems, and any other form. The postmodernism is a theme. It's an identity of some different genre of literature. And stylistic techniques in postmodernism are pastiche, intertextuality, metafiction, minimalism, maximalism, magical realism, and temporal dissertation. The postmodernism focuses on indeterminacy, fragmentation, decanization, shallowness, unrepresentable selflessness, hybridization, and carnivalization. The main subjects of postmodernism are dark humor, abusive language, loneliness, psychology, hyperreality, and technoculture. These are the main subjects. According to Dr. Seba, postmodernism authors tend to use irony and black humor in their writings. They present subject matter, even the serious ones, with the playfulness and fragmentation. Now I'm going to apply these things in the important aspects of postmodern texts in Margaret Atwood's Hag-Seed. How the aspects of postmodern text present in Atwood's Hag-Seed. That is, now I'm going to tell about that. Before that, we can know the perspective of Afa Hussein Adalri, who is a researcher. He researched that structurally the two texts are divided into five parts, while the Tempest is divided into five acts. Hag-Seed is divided into five chapters. Thematically, the two texts share the main key themes, which are usurpation, exclusion, revenge, and mixture of life with dreamlike elements. The metafiction means a play within a play or a story within a story. So the life of characters suffers something and it tells new stories. That is called metafiction. And in the work of William Shakespeare's Tempest as well as Margaret Atwood's Hag-Seed, we can see the metafiction there because in the Tempest, Prospero lives in an island, so that is his real life, and he makes a play. He started a drama in the sea. That is that is how he used Ariel to spoil the ship of Antonio and Alonso. That is the metafiction. So the main tale is how uh, he Prospero lived his life in the island and how he started the play, how he dramatized the elements of the sea. That is the play within a play. Likewise, the in Hag-Seed, Felix Phillips is a theatrical director, and he works in Fletcher Correctional Institute. That is a prison institute for prisoners. In that institute, he used prisoners to demonstrate, to enact a play which is a interactive thing, which is a real one. So this is a play into a play. That is a prominent element of metafiction. And we can see in this novel, the Hag-Seed, the names of olden literature books and characters. When you The most important aspect of postmodern texts are retelling the tales as well as it has some old literature books, characters, etc. Atwood tells about Felix. Once in a while, he would even take the central part if it was something he felt drawn to: Julius Caesar, the Tartan king, Leo, Titus Antonius triumphs for him. Every one of those roles and every one of his productions. In these lines, we can see the name of Julius Caesar, King Lear. These names are from based on the characters of ancient books, olden books. So this is an aspect of postmodernism, postmodern texts. And questioning the reader is the aspect of postmodern text. In this novel, Atwood asks readers: Lavinia, Juliet, Cordelia, Perdita, Marina, all the lost daughters, but some of them had been found again. Why not his Miranda? This is the question asked by the novelist to the readers. So the novelist directly asked the question to readers. So we have to answer the novelist with our own heart. This is a postmodern text. Postmodern texts always want us to be involved in the reading process. We are very active. We should be very active when we read postmodern texts. Otherwise, we will be lost by the fragmentation of the stories. And Atwood told her assumption how the Felix Phillips thought. That is her assumption, not of the assumption of Felix Phillips. He told that he contemplated a grand gesture such as dumping everything out onto the parking lot and setting fire to it, but with what? Gasoline would be needed, or some kind of explosive, neither of which he had. And anyway, why give Tony any more ammunition? Fire department called, police summoned, Felix hauled off in chains and gibbering and screaming, then charged with arson and creating a disturbance. Psychiatric expert brought in, paid by Tony, diagnosis given. See, Tony would say to the board, paranoid, psychotic. Thank heavens we were able to divest ourselves of him in time before he went postal right at the theater. This is the assumption of Atwood because in this novel, Atwood projected Felix Phillips as Prospero and Anthony Price or Tony as Antonio. So he assumed that these things might happen if Felix Phillips acted something with anger. So she showed her assumptions. This is the important aspect of postmodern text. And next thing is the magic of Ariel. In the play, the Tempest is replaced by the technoculture of Eight Hands. Eight Hands is a person who replaced Ariel. He is left with the choice of Magical Island music up to Eight Hands, as Prospero seems to have done with Ariel, though he supplied the requested selection of MP3s. So you can see the MP3s. MP3 is a technology, it is a uh, form, it is a file format which is used to play music. So he replaced the power of magic by the use of technology. It is an important aspect of postmodern works, postmodern text, and dark humor and hyperreality are also placed in this novel, The Tempest. Saul won't have any problem with lying. He's a practiced politician. So in the contemporary era, the era of postmodernism, we know that politicians used to lie. Politicians lie about something. So see, Margaret Atwood integrated this element. She attached this postmodernism element to this work. So the retelling of Shakespeare's work gets the elements of postmodernism. In the 440th line of the Tempest, Prospero calls Caliban as Hag-Seed. Hag-Seed means the son of a witch. So he says Felix in this novel stated that to the team, you are, says Felix, you are a team, but I am the king of it. So in this text, in the Hag-Seed, Felix Phillips compared the inmates, the prisoners, with slaves, with a Caliban. So he called the prisoners as Hag-Seed. They are not the characters in real. They are just prisoners. So he compared them with Caliban. So the title is matched in a new perspective. This is the important aspect of postmodern text. And retelling of William Shakespeare's The Tempest in Margaret Atwood's Hag-Seed. How retelling happens in this work? William Shakespeare wrote Tempest in 1610, and Margaret Atwood wrote Hag-Seed in 2016. The retelling of Shakespeare is idea came to Hogarth Shakespeare, a company, a publication that invited the scholars and that invited reputed novelists to write Shakespeare stories as a retelling. So this was published in 400th death anniversary of William Shakespeare. She retold the plot of William Shakespeare with her own characters and characterizations. The characters were compared, were used in her own point of view in this novel. Felix Phillips is Prospero. Prospero in William Shakespeare's work is Felix Phillips, and Annie Mary Greenland is Miranda. Eight Hands is Ariel. Anthony Price or Tony is Antonio. Sherbert is Sebastian. Salvo Nelly is Alonso. Freddy or Frederick is Ferdinand. The inmates, the inmates are compared to Caliban. The venue, the island is changed as Fletcher County Correctional Institute. It's a prison institute. And how the retelling happens, that is I'm going to tell. In the Act 1, Scene 2 of The Tempest, the words are said by Prospero. 12 years since, Miranda, 12 years since, thy father was the Duke of Milan and a prince of power. My brother and thy uncle called Antonio, I pray thee, mark
Sorry
me.
to
That
interfere.
okay, ma'am.
Please stick to the time limits. Try to
Okay,
conclude
ma'am.
it.
Okay,
Yes.
ma'am. I'm trying to conclude. The research findings of my research are the role of postmodernism in reviving ancient literature is irreplaceable. So, postmodernism have a prominent role in reviving ancient literature, like the works of Shakespeare, and it motivates. My research paper motivates the film or novel adaptation of the plays which are written in past, and the arrival of postmodern text has endless discovery, has broken the limit of human cognition. So we have to think about that. And Eric Erickson's psychological theories are applied in this work. How he dealt. Felix dealt with the cognition of himself and the psychology that is stored in the work of Margaret Atwood, and I submitted my full paper. You can see the full concept of my research findings there. Thank you so much for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Thank you,
Heymonth,
ma'am.
it was very nice presentation, Heymonth. Personally, I like the structure of your paper,
Thank you,
okay,
ma'am.
your paper and your presentation too. And you have listed out all the characters who were recreated and how
Yes,
the
ma'am.
story was retold. Okay, I hope so.
Yes, ma'am.
I may get so many incidences if I read your paper. So anyway, it was very nice. Okay, so one there is a question from the participant. So after the
Okay, ma'am.
participant's questions answer, I will ask my question. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, let me read the participant's question. It
Okay, ma'am.
was asked by Manodip.
Okay, ma'am.
Uh, so you have stated that postmodernism is after modernism. Is
Yes, ma'am.
modernism already over? This is the question of him. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Is so you as you have used the word postmodernism is after modernism. He is
Yes, ma'am.
asking, is modernism already over?
Okay. The postmodernism is a age after modernism, which means the age of Shakespeare and after the age of Milton. So the age of Shakespeare is not over yet. The plays are restaged during that age, but the emergence of new literature. I mean that the modernism is not over, but the postmodernism is a emergence. It's a new, it's a it's a new baby. It's a new birth during that age. So I use it postmodernism because it's a brother sister like bond. Brother is not over. He is alive now, but his sister is born after the brother. So this is the birth. This is the process. Thank you.
Okay, Hemant, very nice. Okay, shall I ask my question?
Yes, ma'am. Of course, ma'am.
Okay, so as only if 12 to 15 minutes, 13 minutes were given,
Okay, ma'am.
you might have missed something. Okay, so
Okay, ma'am.
anyway,
Okay, ma'am.
so can you please state the space in this text where the
Okay, ma'am.
reader is compelled to contribute something, otherwise the reader is given part to contribute something.
Ma'am, in this novel, particularly in Hag-Seed, the reader is compelled to contribute something because without the contribution of the reader, the reader cannot understand the text correctly. So the fragmented text, the retelling of the story. Because if you read a story which is new, you are not compelled to contribute because you're just reading, you're grasping the knowledge. But when you are reading the works that are retelling by writers, you are compelled to contribute because without the compulsion, without the contribution, you cannot connect the two texts, the original text and the retelling text. So you are compelled to contribute that, ma'am.
Okay, ma. Nice. Okay, ma.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
Shri
ma'am.
Priya, ma'am. We shall move
Thank you,
on to
ma'am.
the
Yes.
next presenter,
Sure.
ma.
Thank you, Heyman Kumar. And the next person is Manodip Chakraborty, Assistant Professor, Department of Applied Science and Humanities. And the topic is From Artificial to Natural: Understanding the Isogloss of Postmodern E-Gaming Language.
Uh, Thank you, ma'am, for this opportunity. Currently, my name is Manodip Chakraborty, and currently I'm practicing as an assistant professor at GL Bajaj Group of Institution. As I'm a language professor, so I'm quite drawn to this field. And my topic also deals with the e-gaming language because in my work, I usually see students indulged in their free time with e-gaming platforms, be that mobile gaming or computer gaming. So I'm quite interested to just understand how these gaming platforms are influencing day-to-day life and the social structure as a whole. So just give me a moment. I'm sharing the screen for the discussion. I'll be restricting the discussion within a narrow time so that we can have the afterward discussion, a kind of analysis of the whole topic. And as this is a language topic, so the whole concept cannot be covered within the mere of 15 or 20 minutes. It will take more than 3 to 4 hours to understand the whole structure. So I'll be restricting with a few selected terms that are familiar with the gaming community, and I'm really hoping that you will also understand the implications of the new gaming connotations. And through this, I'll try to discuss how the future will look if the e-gaming platforms overtake our societal language system. So my topic is artificial to natural. The artificial means the new terms or terminologies that are arising in society, and natural means those terms and terminologies that are already familiar with our system. And the word isogloss means a kind of contrasting community where new forms of languages or the ideas arise usually. So this is an attempt to showcase a new kind of structure that hasn't happened before. The sound or signifiers in the Saussurian system, uh, the sound or the signifiers are the acquired one, and the visual or the signified ones are the cognitive one. Means you have to think, then you have to associate. But while we come, or usually when I see e-gaming platforms, the sound and the visual both are pre-given. Both are given by the gaming communities or by the gaming industries. The audiences or the gamers, they just eat those things. They don't think what they are eating, they just eat those things, and in the process they digest the whole language system and make it a part of their food chain. Why I'm saying this is a food chain, because the terminologies that are actually I can use for language analysis will be much more tougher to understand. So that is why I'm trying to restrict within a familiar language. And one thing you have to understand that whatever we are going to analyze, for a gamer, all these are natural things. For a gamer, the normal language system are outdated. They are trying to grasp new meanings with old terms. They are trying to learn old terms or words, but with new meanings. That is the focus of my paper, and I will be analyzing it in 3 parts. But for this presentation, I will be restricting myself only with the one part or the pre-given part. So let us understand what is an isogloss. If we look at the oval shape, it is the structure of our society. Just hold on a minute. This oval shape is the structure of a society. All the languages, all the understandings, functionings, associations, all that you can imagine in a given point of time. But as we are all aware that language is something that you must learn. It is not with you from your birth. You have to learn. And we also know that in a society or in a pre-given structural system, not everyone can learn the equal signifying system, not the equal words or phrases. So we have a particular group of people familiar with terms or the globalized terms or recent findings, whatever that may be. For instance, we are discussing uh, something in a conference or a seminar. I can assure you that there are people who don't even know the term conference or seminar. So this is a whole society with all its associations. Now, what is happening in an isogloss? Uh, if we look at the option A is a community within a community that is generating new ideas or phrases or terminologies. And this section B is the educated community, or those persons, they are familiar with the language system, which we usually refer to as the educated people. They are familiar with educations. Now, something in a word or phrase coined in A, if it is contrasting with something in B, it is called an isoglossic contrastation, because in that you don't know who will win. It is a language war A is equally trying to force its language on B, and B is equally trying to force its conventions, its institutions on A. So it is what is happening in an isoglossic system, and it is all are happening right now within our structural system or within our society. So this is actually an isogloss, a contrasting field of languages, where new terms are trying to replace the old established terms. Now, let us look at the some basic e-gaming terms. These are the very basic terms that you must know. Even you can search them on Google, e-gaming terms as e-gaming terms, and you can find these terms. I have also taken them from Google, just plain research, and one gamer must familiar himself or herself with the meaning of these terms before playing any kind of e-gaming. First one is console, that is platform. Next one is DLC, that is downloadable content. Third one is FPS or shooter. Full name is first person shooter. In short, shooter. GG is it is a slang, good game. Streamer is equal to caster, or who is controlling the system or the game. So these are the some basic terms that I am going to analyze. And for the short time discussion, I will be applying just the term console to explain how the word has changed from its previous meaning, how the fragmentation is actually happening. The word console actually means, if we came into the arena of lung parole distinction, language distinction, then console, it is a lung, as a lung means soothe or soothe. Pronunciation varies. Uh, Generally means erasing the discomfort of an object for a better handling. So this was accepted by the educated community. That word erasing discomfort, console equal to erasing discomfort, was accepted by the educated community since its coinage, that is from the perhaps 16th or 17th century. And it was going on just like that. You can also find in the old dictionaries the word console is equal to erasing discomfort or with soothe. But what is happening right now? Due to this gaming console platforms after 2007, after the boom and bust situation or boom and bust era, uh, use of PlayStations, it was increased by 79%. And if you see the current scenario, almost 61% youths are actively engaged with gaming platforms, and almost 51% adults are engaged with gaming platforms. For them, uh, for those community, for those gaming communities, the word console means a handler, a handling situation is that is connected with software and hardware. So for the gaming persons, for those who are playing the e-games, for them console means that it is related with hardware and software softening, something that can help you to play the game. But for the established community, for the educated person, console means erasing discomfort. And here lies the contrasting field. And here lies the actually the contrasting ideas, the uh, isogloss that I was referring previously. So what will happen in future? It is really debatable that what can happen in future. If you judge my personal opinion, I can say that the way e-games are consuming the market or the whole situation, even uh, Facebook or YouTube, everything are being grasped by its whole community. So I can fairly guess in future we'll be having the e-gaming meanings rather than the traditional one. So, for another understanding, okay, ma'am, I know that I have only 2 minutes. I will be concluding within that. So, these are the old meanings with the new one. Console previously means with soothe, but right now it is for e-gaming persons, it is associated with platform related with hardware and software. DLC actually means the differential leukoid count, that is a percentage measuring the WBC in our blood. But for now, for the e-gaming community, it is erasing the old one for a downloadable content. And the downloadable content means a soft copy. So they are actually destroying our old languages for a new one. FPS means a frame rate or frames per second for a camera. But right now, we are understanding FPS equal to shooter. So nowadays, no one understands FPS as frames per second. You just tell a gamer the meaning of FPS, he will just reply to you that it is a shooter. So in this way, all these are developing. And what will happen in future, it's a fairly guess that after 50 or 60 years, who knows that you will find a dictionary. In the dictionary, they will say that the streamer, usually a streamer is a strip you use in parties for decoration. Uh, After 50 years, you will find a dictionary. In that, you will see that the word streamer means a caster, gaming caster, a person who is creating the game or responsible for creating everything in game. And there you will also find the archaic meaning of streamer, archaic meaning that we are right now using. The archaic meaning will denote that a strip used in parties for designing in 2022. So that is what actually is happening. Yes, ma'am, I know. That is what actually happening with these e-gaming platforms. And my paper will also deal in three parts, that how it is actually influencing our language system and what will be the future prospect of it. Thank you, ma'am. If you have any questions, please.
Participants and other presenters, please. Any questions? Okay. Manodip sir, it was a very nice presentation. I have a question with you. My
Yes,
question
ma'am.
is with your first slide. Okay. So can you give some examples, the terms, okay, which were created by the group A and which was contradicted by group B?
Okay, yes, ma'am, why not? For instance, the word glamour. If you take the word glamour, then at the first instance, during the time of Chaucer, for instance, the word glamour means witch, someone who can create unnatural situations. That is the established meaning. But for the recent time, the word glamour means glowing. And as you can see, during the era of 600 years, it has completely erased the old meaning to create a new meaning. And the e-gamings are exactly doing this, but they are not creating any kind of surface structure. They are doing this within the surface. And no one even cares, because usually when you talk about games, we usually term it as children's stuff. So it is quite fascinating.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your reply, sir. And
Yeah.
one more, this is not a question actually, it's a suggestion from my side. No, it's my opinion. That
Yes, ma'am.
is, of course, what you told was right. These votes would affect our day-to-day conversation and all because easily it will mingle with us. But affecting the dictionary, I hope so. It won't happen, sir, because we have a technical dictionary for each department, right? So how it will affect the general dictionary? Okay, they may have a technical dictionary for their field, but this is my personal opinion. It will not affect the general dictionary, the common dictionary, what we use.
Ma'am, may I share something just for a moment?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ma'am, actually, I'm engaged with this field for more than 2 years, and I'm quite well versed with the meanings and their terms. Ma'am, you can usually find that they are replacing gradually the old dictionary meanings. Yes, I hope that they won't affect the natural ones, but it will be catastrophic. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your suggestion.
May I just opine one sentence here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, yes. So regarding dictionaries and entries, so this is very normal to every language, and only then a language leaves when
Yes,
the
yes, ma'am.
meanings comes up with new meanings comes up. Because we have seen with the history of languages that why Latin dies, because it was so rigid, it was so strict, so that rigidness was never flexible. And as we know that the newer and newer coinage, that is why every year this data comes up in Oxford University, what new words are entered. So coming up with new words, that is my feeling, because I am also working in this field
Yes,
since
yes, ma'am.
my master degree, teaching linguistics for the last 25 years. So this is what I feel. Just I am just putting my observation here and nothing else. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. 100% you were right. But a language has to change in order to survive. That's the basic law of society. But ma'am, the generation has to suffer. That's what the postmodernism lies, and that is the focus of my analysis. How language creates the tension on the people, on the postmodern people. So that's why I was trying actually to focus. Okay, thank you, ma'am, for your observation. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Manodip Chakraborty.
Thank you,
And
ma'am.
let's move to the next person now. Shavleen Kaur, she is a research scholar in Panjab University, Chandigarh. Her topic is Unveiling the Reflections of Hyperreality in Emma Donnett's Room. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. I'm Shavleen Kour, a research scholar from the Department of English and Cultural Studies from Panjab University, Chandigarh. So today I am going to present paper on unveiling the reflections of hyperreality in Emma Donoghue's Room that was published in 2010. The proposed research paper will examine the impressions of postmodern theory of hyperreality in Emma Donoghue's Room. Postmodernism is the new period in human social life that embarked on media culture, TV, computers, radio, and the internet. For instance, the new world pandemic has obscured the lines between the physical and the computerized world. So, in order to compete for resources, we have seen that presently the virtual world is contending with the real world. So, this paper depicts how reality, which has no originality, influences the characters of the novel. Donoghue was inspired to write this novel after learning about the well-known real-life Fritzl case, where a man who has abducted 19 years old girl for 9 years and raped her several times. Donoghue has sketched two protagonists for the novel, Jack and his mother, which he called as Ma in the novel. Jack's mother Ma has been kidnapped and held prisoner by old Nick in an 11 by 11-foot room for 7 years. He has never explored the outside world since he was born. For Jack, the room is the ultimate reality of his life, being unaware of the outside world. So, in this work, I am going to unveil the nuances of hyperreal. So, firstly, I would like to introduce the term hyperreal. The term hyperreal has been discussed by the Jean Baudrillard for the first time in his work Simulacra and Simulation, and defined it as the generation by which by models of a real without origin. The present reality of the world is a multifaceted reality that cannot trace its origin, but it's keep simulating. With the technological intervention of the internet in the 1990s, the idea of simulation replaced the essence of reality. The theory that began in the 1980s has become the fact of present times. Recent breakthroughs in the discipline have reshaped our understanding of what is real and what is not. The COVID-19 pandemic has reasserted the hyperreal world, and now people are increasingly reliant on the internet as their sole means of interaction. Hyperreality dilutes consciousness into confining from any genuine, enthusiastic commitment, rather picking fake simulation and unlimited proliferation of empty appearances. Sometimes people tend to move to hyperreality for temporary peace and joy, to escape their inner fear, depression, anxiety, and dark secrets. Likewise, in the hyperreal world of that room, that Ma makes an honest effort so that she can upbring Jack by concealing the mystery of that room. She generally causes him to do exercises in that space to keep him healthy and happy. Her child with similar bits of stuff each day, as Ma has encouraged him to do those things inside that room which people used to do outside, but he cannot because he has no idea about the outside world. So she wants to make sure that her child will be happy and healthy inside that room. So that's why she creates create that illusion world for him, even though the giant living creature he sees in that room, except for Ma and himself, is a mouse. And in an instance in the novel, when Jack saw a mouse, he amusingly reacts, he he's alive for real. He's the biggest alive thing I ever saw, millions of times bigger than the ants or spider. So that was the only thing he sees in that room, except him and her mother. And the another interesting element which I really love to introduce about that novel is the television that lies inside the room and through which Jack explores the outside world. Television is the only medium through which he learns, entertains, sees other people. Nevertheless, this is the only source that makes Jack skeptical about the other things also, and the outside world which he desired to see and feel, but cannot, as he confuses it with the fake authenticity. Authenticity. Jack thinks that television is a different planet on which he can see so many things that he cannot experience for real, as it is merely a fake source to him. When he says in a novel, I would like to quote few lines. On the other planets, it's mostly person that hundreds can fit into the screen. So when he is saying other planet, he is referring to the television. Except often one gets all bigger and near. They have clothes instead of skin. Their faces are pink or yellow or brown or patchy or hairy, with very red mouths and big eyes with black edges. They laugh and shout a lot. I would love to watch all TV all the time, but it rots our brains. So from this instant, we can see that he watches TV for the long time, and still and he was also monitoring by his mother that he cannot watch it for the whole day because it can rot his mother. So these instances here reflects that her mother wants her child to be healthy and happy. So that's why, but still because he wants to see what is outside that room, so he is exploring those things from that television. Like in the another instance, we can see that he was struggling with reality to find out what is real and what is imaginary when he says cats and rocks are TV, bunnies are TV, but carrots are real. Mountains are too big to be real. I saw one on television. Or women aren't like Ma is, and girls and boys not either. So for him, all those things he sees first time in on the television, and for him everything is whatever he saws on television. He that is in another planet which he cannot access. And now I would like to here take another instance from the novel from the of the abductor, Old Nick. He's a cynic character in the novel, and the negative one also. He whom Jack called Old Nick. He's not even sure about his existence, but he calls him Old Nick because when he sees a guy in the cartoon who appears during the night as Old Nick. When Old Nick comes, Jack notices that Ma makes him sleep in the cupboard and not let him come outside. He's not even aware whether Old Nick is real or a simulacrum that comes from TV in the night. And it is evident in one of the phrases when he says, "Men are not real except Old Nick, and I'm not actually sure if he's real for real. He brings groceries and Sunday treat and disappears the trash, but he's not human like us. He only happens in the night, like bats. I think Ma doesn't like to talk about him in case he gets realer." So I would like to conclude this paper here, where no one knows what is authentic or fake, and still we are simulating real without origin. We are following what others are doing. We are doing what internet technology makes us to do things. So Donoghue in this novel has profoundly highlighted the nuances of hyperreal. Jack's assumed mirror house that Mark creates is firstly challenged by the TV, which is the prominent part of his earlier reality. That room is shattered by media culture when he escaped that room in the later part of the novel, which is the central focus. Without realizing what is happening to both of them, the fast realities factors consistently draw in individual, and their effects impact them. So they think they are genuine and unique. Demolition of the genuine is considerably more evident in each field in the postmodern world. Broad communications and sound continually manage symbols and regularly supplant the real reality. So here the real becomes more hyperreal and it creates triviality. So thank you. This is all.
Shavleen? That's a very nice presentation. You have structured it very well. And one more thing I have to appreciate, you know what to be presented. Right? That's a reason you didn't give any room for questions.
Okay.
Okay. So any questions from the audience side, participant side? I hope so. No questions. Sripriya ma'am, we shall move with the next presenter, ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you,
Yes,
ma'am.
thank you, Shavleen. And let's move to the next person, Angel Test-Cherian. She's a former assistant professor on contract. Her topic is mixing memory with music, juxtaposing Haruki Murakami's Norwegian Wood with the select songs by the Beatles.
Hello everyone, my name is Angel Testurian. I was working as an assistant professor on contract in the self-financing department of English, Assumption College, Changanasheri, Kerala. I have a presentation, PPT prepared over here. Wait a second, I will share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay.
Not now.
Okay.
No. Yes.
Okay, so that is the title of my paper. And moving on to Norwegian Wood, it is written by Haruki Murakami, and I will briefly introduce the characters because I will be mentioning their names or not in my paper. So Toru Watanabe is the protagonist, and Kisuki is his best friend who later commits suicide, and Naoko is his Kisuki's partner, and Toru is in love with Naoko, but she is unable to return his feelings. So Toru tries to have a relationship with Midori, but it doesn't work out well because he is unable to return her feelings, and he also shares a special friendship with Reiko, Naoko's roommate. Now, the title of my paper is actually borrowed from a line from The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, and my argument is that the songs by the period selected for the study serve as complementary texts contributing to the overall narrative. That is, we can extend the scope of the novel by exploring how the characters mix memory and music together. Now, talking about the band The Beatles, this is actually a cover of their album Let It Be, and this is the basic lineup. But as a band, they doesn't necessarily they don't stick to particular roles. They all write songs, they all sing songs and sing song, and they all perform multiple instruments as well. But the songs that I have chosen for this study are actually written by Lennon and McCartney. Now, as you can see on the right, there are actually a lot of singers, artists that are actually mentioned in the novel, starting from classical musicians to the then contemporary artists. And but I am only focusing on a selected few songs by the Beatles. I've given the list on the left, and the songs that are actually featured in the novel is actually very popular. That you can actually find playlists in Spotify. Now, this is how the songs are actually presented in the novel. So, Toru and Naoko listens to the songs that are actually performed by Reiko on the guitar. So, they don't listen to the songs on the radio, they actually listen it live as it is performed by Reiko. Now, that is actually a screenshot from the film Norwegian Wood. Now, this is Reiko's comment on the Beatles. She says that the Beatles can express the sadness and gentleness of life. Now, coming to the song Norwegian Wood, as you can easily guess, Murakami borrowed the title from this song. And during the opening of the novel itself, in the second paragraph itself, the song is mentioned. The setting is in 1980s, and Toru is on a flight to Hamburg. Hamburg is a city in Germany, and he happens to listen to an orchestral version of Norwegian Wood, and he's mentally transported 20 years back, to 1960s during his university days, and he says the melody never failed to send a shudder through me, but this time it hit me harder than ever, and we will find out why he reacts to this song in this way. Now, on the left, I had given the lyrics of the song, and on the right, there are references to the novel. So, Norwegian Wood is basically about a girl who had invited a man to her room, and they drink wine, they talk, and in the morning she simply leaves. So on the right, I have given reference to the novel. So in the novel, Naoko suffers from depression, and she is in a sanatorium called Amy Hostel, which is at Kyoto. So Toru decides to visit this place, which is actually a secluded place in the woods, and he decides to stay there for a few days, and that is where he meets Reiko for the first time. Now, together they drink wine. Now, as Toru sits outside Naoko's room on a night, he can actually see the candlelight that is lit in the room, and he compares it to Soul's dying embers, and he says that he wants to protect this flame. And he compares himself to Jay Gatsby, which, as you can see, is a reference to Scott Pfister as the Great Gatsby. This is actually Toru's favorite book. And in the book, in the song, it is Lennon writes a particular line, "So I lit a fire." So when the speaker in the poem, he wakes up in the morning, he doesn't find anyone, so he decides to light a fire. And Lennon actually explains that lighting a fire doesn't mean he did it to keep himself warm. He actually burned the whole place down as an act of revenge. So we can compare the two male figures in the song and the novel, and we can say that Toru doesn't have any ill feelings towards the person who didn't return his feelings. He merely wants to protect her from the darkness of her own heart. And Norwegian Wood and Michelle are actually Naboko's favorite songs, and she says that every time she listens to this song, she imagines herself to be wandering in the wood. She's alone, it is cold and dark, and nobody comes to save her. So, as I said already, that she suffers from depression because her boyfriend had committed suicide. It is also revealed that her sister and uncle had already committed suicide, and her father makes this passing remark that maybe it's in the blood from my side. So in the end, tragically, Tawoko also commits suicide by hanging in the woods. So that very statement she said about Norwegian Wood, it kind of it comes true. And Toru's previous statement about souls dying embers, it is also prophetic. Now, this is how Toru reacts after her death. He laments that even though he tried, everything, he tried his best to make her happy, but she didn't choose him. She chose Kisuki and even decided to follow him all the way to death. And he says, in woods as dark as the depths of her own heart, she hanged herself. So woods attain a new connotation here. It becomes symbolic of the darkness residing within Naboko's mind. So we can see that the very one, just the ones on Norwegian wood add layers of meanings to the novel. Now coming to the next song, Eleanor Rigby, it is actually a song about a lonely woman who had died alone and nobody came for her funeral, and it is led by Father Mackenzie, a priest who is also a lonely figure. And basically the song is about loneliness, and you can see on the right, it is actually a handwritten note of the lyrics by Paul McCartney himself. And even though McCartney said that there is no person by that name, he really made up that person, even that name. Fans later discovered that there is really a person called, there was a person called Eleanor Rigby, who actually doesn't have anything to do with the song. And what happened is fans, this become a very an important site for the fans, and they visit this site every single time they are in Liverpool. Now, as you can see, there are even sculptures dedicated for this person. Now, coming to the novel, Naoko's funeral is described as a sad little funeral because her family didn't want others to know how she died. So, like Eleanor, Naoko is also a lonely figure, and her funeral was not attended by many. And Reiko makes this statement that no one should have to die like that. And together, she and Toru decides to give her a proper funeral. And for this, on one single night, Reiko decides to perform 50 songs, out of which 14 songs are actually by the Beatles. And there is a particular pattern to how she does this. She begins by playing the Norwegian wood, and for her 49th song, she plays Eleanor Rigby, and the 50th is another performance of Norwegian wood. So as you can see, him choosing this song as a 59th song is no coincidence. Now coming to Nowhere Man, it is a philosophical song written by Lennon, and the title is pretty self-explanatory. It is about a man who has no place to go, who doesn't know his real purpose in life. Towards the end of the novel, Toru decides to cut his ties with everyone, and he goes on his solo journey, and he gives Midori a call, and Midori actually asks him, "Where are you now?" And this makes him very confused, and he asks himself, "Where was I now? I can see people going nowhere, and I am actually in a place called no place." And he says that he's actually an ordinary guy, and he doesn't even know why someone like Isuki would pay attention to him. And he says that he doesn't want to make friends because it can only lead to disappointment. And he says that he has trouble adjusting to the world, and he don't think the world is in the real world anymore. So Murakami Soro is also a nowhere man. Now, coming to the song Michelle, I just want to focus on the two lines. Until I find a way, I will say the words I know that you will understand. This is clearly an indication of Naoko's inability to express her feelings. She says that she can only express a fraction of what she wants to say. And after Kisuki died, she said she has trouble relating to other people and what it meant to love another person. So this is why she is actually unable to love Toru back. Now, coming to the song Yesterday, this is a very popular song. I'm sure that most of you have heard the song. And even though the song is basically about a breakup, it is also a song about nostalgia. And let me take you back to the opening of the novel. Toru listens to Norwegian Wood, and he has this sudden surge of memories. Thinking of all I had lost in the course of my life, times gone forever, friends who had died or disappeared, feelings I would never know again. So he sees writing as a healing process, and he says that it is the only way by which he can actually seal his memories. And he says that he's afraid of writing from memories because he fears that he forget the most important thing. And he is actually the one who is writing the book. And he says that this is the only way by which he can actually understand himself. The only way by which he can give a purpose to life. And he says that he actually has a promise to Naoko, and he's actually writing this book in memory of her, and he couldn't find a better title than Norwegian Wood, which is actually her favorite song. Now, to conclude, Murakami effectively uses songs to create the setting of the 1960s, to show how the characters relate to music on a personal level, to show how memories are interconnected with music, as text complementing the main narrative. There is a narrative quality endowed to the music by the listener as they relate to the fictional world imagined in the song and connected with the happenings of their own life. These are my words cited, and thank you.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
So you're a multitasker, ma'am. So you have given a very fast presentation.
Mm.
Simultaneously, you have moved the clippings also for us. Really, it was a challenging one.
Yes.
You
Uh,
didn't want to miss anything, right, ma'am?
yes, I
Within that,
really wanted, every one of you to really enjoy the book and the songs as well. So I wanted to give a deeper presentation as I can within this particular time limit.
yeah, I could understand your intention. Your presentation was very nice, ma'am. You have covered up all the objectives, whatever you have mentioned in the introduction. Okay,
Okay.
it was very nice, ma'am.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
any questions from the audience side, participant side?
So hope there is no question from
No questions.
we.
Okay, okay.
Yes. Hope, yes, of course, we enjoyed your presentation. Thank you so much, Angel
Okay,
Tess.
thank you.
And now let's move to the next person, Rajbir Samal, a PhD scholar, IIT Roorkee, and the topic is Edible Indian and Alternative Reading of Food, Gender and Ethnicity in Gurinder Chadha and Paul Meda Burgess, the Mistress of Spices. Yes, please.
Ma'am, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, you can
Yes,
start.
so
We're getting the echoes from your end.
yes, so I have some microphone issues. Can I take just 2 to 3 minutes to solve it?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Sri Priya ma'am, shall we check whether the last presenter ready?
Yes, ma'am. Just a minute.
Okay, let him set it right, and before that we shall engage with her.
Yes. We don't have two members, I think Mithali Bhattacharya and Indumati, Miss K. Indumati. So he's the one, only one.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, 1 second. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. It is.
Yes. Can you see the slides?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Yeah, thank you very much for confirming. Uh, Yes. So, thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to present my paper. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rajbir Samal. I am a research scholar at IIT Roorkee, and the topic I am going to present today is edible Indianness, an alternative consumption of food, gender, and ethnicity in Gurinder Chadda and Paul Mayadabar, the mistress of spices. Now, before going on to properly going into the topic, let me just chart out uh, uh, between food and diaspora and what is its connection. So food as the most significant medium of the traffic between inside and outside our bodies operates one of the key cultural signs that structure people's sense of the self and their identities. Although these are the banal practices of everyday life, the preparation and consumption of food have far-reaching importance in the subject formation of people. So, when people cross national boundaries and enter unfamiliar territories, the acts of cooking and acting, the acts of cooking and eating, sorry, becomes one of the most important and meaningful exercises. So, so due to its elementariness, food is deeply steeped within the diasporic culture. Uh, Anita Manor, speaking of the inextricability of food with diaspora, says that food as a central part of the cultural imagination of diasporic populations becomes one of the most viable and visible sites both to affirm and resist notions of home and belonging. Unquote. As such, food has always been a central site to read and understand the notions of homeland and hostland. These identities are not only formed by experiences of homeland and hostland, but also through other tangential excesses. right? Uh, yes. Uh, these diasporic authors and filmmakers take the evocative potential of culinary metaphors and narratives to capture the experiences of immigrants in the foreign land. So, food becomes one of the key cultural tropes in the hands of the authors and filmmakers to represent the lives and experiences of the immigrant community. Now, coming on to Indian diasporic culture, and food imagery. Indian diasporic cultural production. In Indian diasporic cultural production, food imagery invariably recurs to seamlessly interfuse Indian food with their sense of identity. So, food in this cultural production or in these cultural texts emerges as a window, as a peephole opening into the ethnic and gender lives of Indian diasporic subjects. So, where does this desire to represent food and diasporic culture come from? It comes from a desire, and it comes from a desire from the displacement, geographic displacement of diasporic Indians, and they want to reproduce this Indianness through different cultural productions, and culinary being one of the central among them, represent or reproduce, regenerate the Indianness through different acts, through different culinary acts. In Indian diasporic cultural production, food unveils also unveils the gender nature of diaspora that we are going to see. Now, coming on to the diasporic cultural text, a litany of diasporic cultural texts revolve around food imagery to articulate the ethnic and the national identity of Indian immigrants. I can the examples that I can think of right now is Bharti Kitchener's Pastries, Shobha Narayan's Monsoon Wedding. There is also an adaptation of Monsoon Wedding by Mira Nair. Then Mississippi Masala, Bhaji on the Beach. These are some of the examples that take the centrality of food to express the national and ethnic identity of Indian immigrants. So films become a fertile medium to engage with food in dealing with Indian immigrant lives. Theorizing South Asian diasporic cinema, in specifically reference to Indian cinema, Jigna Desai points out to this genre which produces new identities, adhering to both the country of origin and the country of immigration. She notes, and I quote, South Asian diasporic films function significantly as part of this shifting economical, political, and cultural relations, raising questions regarding the negotiation of cultural politics of diasporas. So the films take the prism of food to highlight cultural differences commodified in ethnic terms. So if you will see films like Naina's Heavenly Delights, Today's Special, or Jadoo, The Kings of Curry, they work as cultural brokers to make their differences in terms of ethnicity, in terms of gender, palatable to the multicultural discourses that are quite prevailing in the Western multicultural societies. Now, coming on to multiculturalism, the form of film and the alternative forms of eating. Multiculturalism. For let us first chart out what multiculturalism actually means. So, with the influx of Immigration Act in 1965 in America and the loosening of and the opening up of opportunities after colonialism, there is a huge immigration. There is a huge influx of immigrants in the Western countries. So, multiculturalism as a concept emerged in 1960s and 70s, which refers to a set of particular discourses and social forms which incorporate marked cultural differences and diverse ethnicities. In Indian American cultural production, multiculturalism is often evoked in terms of culinary symbols and images to represent its acceptance of cultural otherness and emphasize the assimilative quality of the American multiculturalism, which is so often evoked in terms of the metaphor, the melting pot, where all cultures come and melt down. But in terms of reality, in terms of applicability, multiculturalism in America has always been more about the consumption of ethnic differences rather than any incorporation and meaningful interaction. Now coming on to the consumption part, the consumption of differences in multiculturalism part, that the aspect I am dealing with is alternative consumption, which is not any physical consumption, but it is eschewed in favor of a hyperreal eating. So let us first see what is hyperreal eating. Now, following Jain body can be conceptualized as a conjunctive practice wherein actual eating is in favor of replaced in favor of visual and psychic eating. So what actually happens is that the consumers consume the science of the real rather than the real commodity itself. So the consumer basically consume the culinary images and metaphors rather than the real food that is out there in the restaurants or that is out there in the kitchens, right? Uh, so culinary realm becomes the site where culinary realm, specifically in reference to images, metaphors, and narratives, becomes the site where hyperreal eating takes place. Within the framework of multiculturalism, culinary theme filmed films especially encode the ethnic otherness, which can be now sensorily or alternatively consumed. These culinary-based films employ culinary images, spectacles to exoticize the terms of otherness of Indian immigrants and produce palatable narratives of multiculturalism and how consumption takes place visually and sensorially. The production of exoticized ethnic subjects in the ingestive visual language follows Frank Chin's idea of food pornography, which I am going to also delineate later. By food pornography, these culinary themed films make Indian immigrants commodity combustibles to be consumed by the Western audience. Yes. Now let us come to the text, which is Paul Maida Burgess's The Mistress of Spices. It is actually a 2005 American romantic drama by Paul Maida Burgess with a screenplay by Gurinder Chadha and Burgess herself. It is adapted from the 1997 novel of the same name by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, The Mistress of Spices. The film essentially depicts the tale of Tilo, an Indian American immigrant and a curandera who owns a grocery store named Spicewater in Oakland, California. Much of the film focuses on Tilo's interactions with an array of Indian immigrants and her interracial love story set against multicultural America. The film presents a visually enticing experience of mystifying India amid sacks of rice, exotic spices, bottled potions, and jarred condiments. So the film is deeply lost in an Orientalist conception of India because the visual imagery through culinary images that is present in the film deeply evoke a sense of nostalgia, Orientalist nostalgia about India. So both the spices and Tilo in the film embody an essentialist idea of Indianness embodied in the discourses of both gender and consumption. So as I was talking about the colorful hits of spices, and there are a lot of instances in the film where the tantalizing shots of spices are being presented through only to be visually consumed by the Western audience. So the colorful hits of spices and an exoticized Indian body are made commodity combustibles through the medium of film. Now let us come to the part where I would go on to correlate between food pornography and how it unveils the discourse of alternative consumption in the film The Mistress of Spices. So the concept of food pornography has its origin in the Alexander Cockburn's coinage of gastroporn to describe food that heightens the excitement, also the sense of the unattainability of the food that is present on the screen. In the present uses, the term can be defined as an exploitative form of self-orientalism in which Indian subjects or immigrants highlight the exotic nature of their foodways by exaggerating the terms of their otherness. In food pornography, what happens is that food undergoes a process of defamiliarization by spectacularizing food, presenting it in manners that are sensorily out of bounds. So the food images and culinary images in the film are presented in such a way that they cannot be in actual terms they cannot be achieved, but only in visual terms they can be consumed, both achieved and consumed. In the film there are a lot of scenes So the colorful mijos of tantalizing spices, garlanded red peppers, sea red chilies, and ancient-looking jars in the store of Tilo take away the mundaneness of spices and make them extraterrestrial. So they not only remain the ordinary, the mundane, the everyday spices, but take a whole new different set of meanings. So this spice enclave spice bazaar also looks in as a mystified place of inscrutable design with Indian ethnic wears and mysterious aura. The magical elements of spices also contribute to the defamiliarization due to their exoticized depiction in the film. These are all these attempts at exoticize, mystifying spices and both spices and tilo are the conscious attempts at commodifying and exoticizing Indian culture for the mainstream audience using an Orientalist understanding of food as a signifier of difference. Uh, as I have said, it has also a gendered aspect to it. The film in its own terms not only exoticizes spices but also fetishizes female body, right? So the sari the neatly sari clad Aishwarya, who plays Tilo in the film, becomes the main spice of the movie. So as you will also see that the color of sari also goes deepen with the ongoing of the film and her relationship with dog. And in the end also she wears a red sari on a heap full of spices, heap full of chilies, see red chilies, which symbolize the consumption of their relationship. Now she embodies an Orientalist version of Indianness, spiced and synthesized, bottled and labeled for the consumption of Euro-American audience. Yes, as I have said in the final scene where she consummates her relationship with Rag on a sea red of chilies, she becomes synonymous with the spices, and both serve to cater to the audience for their consumption, for the consumption of Orientalist image of Indianness. Now, the discourse of multiculturalism in the film is very important for the how the consumption takes place, as the film is deeply foregrounded in a multiculturalist atmosphere. It vociferously espouses for a seamless multiculturalism, even at the risk of hiding its discontents like racial violence, because in most of these scenes it either tangentially touches it or totally refuses to engage with it. Now, spice and spice buzzer, which symbolize India in the film, get seamlessly assimilated into American multiculturalism. Tilo becomes a cultural broker who bridges the gap between the complex culinary science of India and American fast food consumption culture. So Tilo essentially becomes a cultural broker, a culinary tourist, so far I can say, to bring these two cultures together and make them melt in the American multiculturalist metaphor of melting pot. The interracial love story between Tilo and Doug also optimistically, through superficially, envisions a commingling of Eastern and Western culture. The film either chooses to be silent and or tangentially touches upon the issues of racial discrimination, violence, which paint the idyllic vision of multiculturalism. These are the discontents of multiculturalism that the film either tangentially touches on or refuses to engage with altogether. Now, coming on to the conclusion, though the film propounds boutique multiculturalism in the terms of fish, which refuses to engage in different forms of interaction, but only allows a superficial mode. It is a significant art dwelling in the interstices not only of two major cultures, that is, two cinematic genres, Hollywood and Bollywood, respectively. The film also enables us to employ discursive strategies to unveil the alternative modes of consumption of Indian food and gender. Despite some of its pitfalls, the film certainly adds up to the rich repertoire of diasporic cultural production that is very rich in nature. Now, these are some of the references that I have taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajbir sir. It was an very uh, very detailed presentation, but information overloaded. Okay, so you have here and there you have listed out some spices names and all, but particularly, can you say some food items which represented Indianness in that multiculturalism, multiculturalist society?
In the film that I can think of, there are a number of spices that represent Indian continent, Indian subcontinent. One is chili. In the sea red chilies, when as I have said in the final scene, when Aishwarya becomes synonymous with the chili itself. So they both represent a sense of Orientalist version of Indianness that are there to be consumed by the multiculturalist audience in a multiculturalist background, right?
Is there any correlation between the character of the person and the spice which is represented, sir?
Yes, ma'am. My understanding of the film is that uh, both Tilo in the film, which is played by Aishwarya Rai, and the spices, they both are made into a package of Orientalist idea of Indianness, which can be consumed by the Western audience. So it is packaged, it is neatly packaged and bottled in Orientalist terms, only to be consumed by the Western audience, right? Only for the consumed to be satisfy the Western gaze. So if I am allowed to say.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Any questions from the participants and the other presenters? Okay, Shri Priya ma'am, is Indumati ma'am available?
She's not here, I guess, and one more also. I mean, we don't have two presenters here. So
Okay,
we will
ma'am.
conclude then.
Okay, ma'am. So let me finish my word, ma'am. Hearty congratulations to all the presenters. You have done well. Okay. Okay, ma'am. Shri Priya ma'am, we shall conclude.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you all the participants for your wonderful cooperation. The topics were quite interesting and packed with full of information. I appreciate all your efforts. Indeed, it's really an amazing presentation by all the presenters. A special thanks to Dr. Sridevi ma'am for her time and valuable questions and comments at the end of the session, at the end of presentation. And that's all for the session. Thank you all. Thank you all once again.